Stars, episode 458. Woo! As always, I'm your host, Justin Baker, and as always, I'm joined by viable human Chris Saturn.
Hello.
Hi, Saturn.
Hi, Justin.
Hello.
Hi.
As far as housekeeping, this is still the recording block where I was injured and then out of town, so if things feel weird or light, then that's what's up.
And if you missed what his injury was, it was that he was hit by a pile driver.
Yeah. I was chronically people's elbowed
by
into the mat and by my daughter, and I had No, I did. I got hand surgery, and it's doing good. I got all my new skin in on it, so it looks all like it looks like my hand looks like the hand of like one of those weird old kids from Akira. It looks like fucking wrinkly and pink and shit.
Nice. That was the perfect description of it. Yeah.
But it's coming in good. It's nice not to have a big lump in my hand anymore. It turned out to be a nerve tumor, so that's what I got out.
You still out there looking for Tetsuo?
Yeah, somewhere. I was apparently growing little nerve tumors inside me to explode into a big, gross body horror monster at some point. My week.
Yes, sir.
Again, still stuck with one hand for most of this session and out of town. So I was playing. I got into a kick of card games because they're easy to play with one hand.
Sure.
They're slow, often mouse-driven interfaces. I picked up one of the Yu-Gi-Ohs because they had during my injury time they had a Steam sale that was like a card game related sale.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
And so I picked up like a lot of stuff. I picked up Stacklands, which I've not played enough of to have much of an opinion on, but it's a weird game. I also picked up one of the Yu-Gi-Ohs. It's called Yu-Gi-Oh! Eternal Darkness of Yu-Gi-Oh's Soul in Hell, or Turbo Hyper Fighting. They all have these crazy ass names.
I love Eternal Darkness.
I don't remember which one it was, but I picked that up and I've been playing that. And it's here's my thing. Because I was playing Pokemon TCG, I was playing that Yu-Gi-Oh game. I also played some Yu-Gi-Ohs on, I think, Game Boy Color on my Mii. I miss standalone trading card game video games. They don't really exist anymore. Everything is like, play the card game in our online platform, right? There's not really games like, Capcom versus SNK, Card Fighters Clash, like Pokemon TCG, like all the various Yu-Gi-Oh games. They're all like part of their online service, and it's really disappointing to me. I really enjoy the the kind of like the little RPG attached to them, like in Card Fighter Clash or like in a Pokemon TCG, where it's like you play a character going through a world of opening packs and doing all this stuff, but in a contained environment that isn't like predatory and chronically online and always careening you into competitive play.
Right.
Like you just get to kind of explore and enjoy this card game.
That's fair.
Because that's how I explored and enjoyed them as a kid. Like nobody I knew was looking up deck lists or going to tournaments. We had like a shoebox of card games in it. Right. And it was like, all right, I put my shoebox together like this, and now I have this deck. And the other person's like, all right, I did this one, and nothing is legal, and they're not even legal to play against each other, and nobody even knows what a ban list is, and it's just random shit. And the card that you think is awesome is worth a penny because it's actually trash. But just getting to explore that, on your own without the weight of, meta games and competitive circuits and that kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
I guess I'm trying to casually, in a roundabout way, describe casually enjoying TCGs. And it's a thing that I get a lot of pleasure from, having enjoyed them casually and competitive at, higher levels of play. It's just nice. I like the gameplay design of a trading card game, a game where you're having new pieces always added to it that you have to wrestle with. And like, that's cool to me. And it makes me very sad. I went on a quest. I was like, all right, all these trading card games are on sale on Steam right now. There's got to be a game like, SNK versus Capcom Card Fighter or Pokemon TCG where like you play a little dude on like an RPG, on a little quest, doing card battles, opening packs, going to little card stores. Like that's got to exist, right? Like so many people my age and older, grew up in these circuits, in the glut of late 90s, early 2000s card game explosions.
Yeah.
And you think there'd be more of that, and there's just kind of not. It's dead. Even some of the existing ones have died. So like Magic the Gathering used to release games. It would be like Duel of the Planeswalkers 2014 or whatever, whatever year it was. And it would be like an encapsulated version of Magic at that time. And it was like a single player thing, and you would play and build up your card collection. It was just a single player card game. Those are all delisted. You can't buy those anymore. The Pokemon card game, their online client used to also include like AI battles, so you could just go do AI battles. They've largely removed that, and they still include it in kind of a limited fashion in their current version because they deleted the old version of the game to make it more like the thing that Magic the Gathering is doing now with their arena game. And I assume that's why Magic the Gathering has delisted all their old shit. It's because they want you to play Arena, because in Arena, you can constantly pay them money. Instead of just paying them money one time, they want you to always be opening virtual card packs.
That's where the money is.
What they don't understand is I want to open card packs and add them to my collection, but I don't want to pay money for them.
Right.
Just give me a video game with packs in it.
That's the point of video games.
Honestly, the funnest part of Balatro for me is opening the little pack. You open the pack, and there's like a little animation, and it's like boing, and it's got like noises, and my brain chemicals are like, we like this. This is good. I like that. It's fun. And so it just, if anyone knows of anything like this, please tell me.
I'm immediately seeing something called Card City Nights.
I've seen Card City Nights. I haven't picked that one up because it looks a little more like less about a card game and more about like visual novelty with indie characters. But that one is on my radar, Card City Nights, and I think there's a sequel. I think there's two of them. Is on my radar. I played a game a while back where the whole game was you running a card shop, and so you have to it's kind of like like a tycoon game where like a new set comes out. So you're like, all right, how many packs of the new set do I want to buy and open to get the rares to display in my case so that people buy them? But then it really ended up being more about a visual novel that they wanted to tell. And I was like, I just like cards. I don't,
What about Baten Kaitos? Does that count?
I've never played any of the Baten Kaitos games. I'm okay. So here's my thing. This is going to sound so specific and fucking weird, and you're going to be like, what is wrong with you? I don't I don't like an RPG where in the world the cards are considered a part of the real world and they're real creatures or whatever that are represented as cards. I want in the world the trading card game to be a trading card game that is interacted with like a trading card game, with opening packs and trading cards and all that, in that vibe, right?
So that you don't open packs in Baten Kaitos, but they are actual cards.
Yeah, that's dubious. Dubious, but worth investigating.
Yeah,
I'll say that. So yeah, just went kind of down a weird card hole. Also landed on Slay the Spire because it's Slay the Spire, and it's like the quintessential. Yes. My only complaint is that whenever I get my cards presented to me, they don't explode out of a little pack with some graphics and sound that makes my brain feel good. So
I found as much as I enjoy Balatro and Slay the Spire. My problem is when I've got a good run going and then I encounter just something that's terrible luck that is counter to my run and ends it and I have to start over. I hate the starting over because I finally got to a point where I was happy with my deck or with my progress, and now I'm starting over, and now I'm discouraged and just want to turn it off.
In the realm of TCGs, I'm kind of like you in that. So there's two modes of TCG play, right? There's the mode where you show up and you've just got your deck or whatever that you made and you brought it from home and you play that. Mm-hmm. And it's always the same and you're changing it or you upgrade it, but it's yours. It's the one you play. And then there are formats called limited where like in the moment you're opening packs and building stuff based on, the luck of the draw.
Right.
And your ability to build a deck. I don't like limited. I don't like that. I want to get this. This is my one thing that I play and I want to get, like if there was a mode in Slay the Spire, which I know that the design of Slay the Spire doesn't support this because you would just immediately build a game-breaking deck that would go infinite from turn one. But if instead of the way the game is built, it was built in such a way where playing the game gave you access to more cards, and you built a deck ahead of time and then ran it through the tower, I think I would prefer that.
Or even if you could unlock that mode.
Yeah, which again, like, they would have to totally redesign all the cards because it's a game where you people just be like infinite turn one. So it would basically be a different game at that juncture. Yeah. But a game that is, theoretically, hey, Slay the Spire, but instead of this limited format where you're trying to open stuff, it's just constructed, but you unlock access, preferably through opening packs with a cute little animation and maybe some sound and some little sparklies that go off. Then that would be fantastic.
Really, if they could just make a game explicitly for you.
Yeah, if you designers, if you're looking for someone to make a game explicitly for, I'm available. So hit me up. I'll let you know what's going on. So that's it. Just card games, exploring little card games because they're so good one-handed. If you only got one hand and you're not masturbating, I highly suggest virtual card games. They work well in that format.
Or if you have two hands and you want something to do while you're masturbating.
That's true. Yeah, you can double task.
Right.
Double task. What are you playing?
So let me start. Okay, let me start by explaining.
This is a lot of lead up.
Yeah, there's a program we have at work that's basically like a recognition program, right?
Okay.
And you can recognize other employees, and they can recognize you, and management can recognize you, and all this stuff. It's like the generic HR feel-goody thing that I'm used to from every corporation. You get a little email, and it's like, somebody recognized you, and you're a super awesome guy.
It's a way to humanize people just enough to keep them from quitting.
Exactly. So I'd gotten a few of these since I started, and I've only been at this company for a little over 3 months now. And I've gotten several of these little, you were recognized and you were awarded a sticker star. Mm-hmm. And I've just been, like ignoring them because that's what I do with these things. Mm-hmm. And one of the guys at work was wearing this new pair of Shokz headphones things. I don't know if you're familiar with these.
No.
They're over-the-ear headphone things that allow you to still listen to the room around you while you're listening to your audio. It's SHOKZ.
I knew it would be a Z.
Of course.
Yeah, okay, so they're bone conduction. Oh, I see. Okay, yeah. All right.
And so he had these, and he was listening to something, and he was like, "Yeah, I bought them with my rewards." And I was like, "What rewards?" And he was like, the sticker stars that they send you in the email. Yeah. Like, I was like, hold on, wait a second.
I can buy things?
These things that they're sending me have a value? And he was like, yeah, you just redeem them and they give you a gift card for something. I was like, okay. So I start looking through the catalog, and I have like 80,000 points at this point.
Oh my God.
From just these stickers that people are giving. And they allot us every quarter a number of stickers that we can give to other people. It doesn't cost us anything, but it gives them something. It's like a little bonus. And so I have all these stickers just because my coworkers are like, we give them to the entire team every time I get some.
Right.
And so I've got these, and I'm looking through what I can get with them. And, it's a bunch of Apple stuff and a bunch of Samsung stuff. And then I get to the gift cards, and I'm like, this is what I actually want. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking through them. It's all these specialty retailers like Banana Republic and stuff. And I'm like, I don't really care about any of this. And then I see Amazon. I'm like, there we go. Perfect. Gonna get an Amazon gift card. And I try to grab the Amazon gift card, and it says, we're temporarily sold out of Amazon gift cards. I'm like, well, damn it. And so I asked the guy, I'm like, does this happen often? And he was like, yeah, you have to get the Amazon gift cards like right away. They restock them on these specific days every few months. I'm like, all right. So I'm looking through the rest of what's in there. And I see GameStop, and I'm like, I hate GameStop, though. I don't want to give them money. But wait, this isn't money. This is fake. And the redemption value is slightly higher than it would have been through Amazon. So I was like, all right, well, let's see what I want at GameStop. And the answer was nothing. Mm-hmm. There's nothing that I want from GameStop. But it has been kind of eating at me that I don't have an Xbox One anymore. Because I replaced it when I got my Series X. So I was like, well, how much is an Xbox One at GameStop these days? And it's okay. It's fine. It's an acceptable value. And I could cash out for 140 in GameStop gift cards. So I was like, that'll make it basically free to me. So I'll see if I can get an Xbox One. But what would I use it for that I can't just play on my Series X?
Right.
And I remembered there are Xbox One games that don't work on Series X.
Oh, I had not realized that.
They're the games that use Kinect.
Oh.
So I got an Xbox One X and a Kinect.
God damn it. Why, Saturn?
And it cost me about $40 out of pocket.
Why?
And
did you do this?
And it arrives and it doesn't power on.
Yeah. All right. Of course. Why would it?
Why
would it fucking work?
Kinect works fine. I plugged it into my PC. It saw it as a webcam. Everything was happy. But the Xbox doesn't work. So I take it to the local GameStop. And this is the same GameStop I had a terrible experience with the PS3. I was like, if I'm going to return an Xbox One to a GameStop who's not going to like it because it was bought online, I'm going to return it to that one because fuck them. So I go to that GameStop with this Xbox One, and he's like,
to spite return it at this point.
Spite return this Xbox One. And so I'm bringing it up there, and he's like, well, what's wrong with it? I'm like, it doesn't power on. He says, oh, did you buy it online? It's like, yeah. He says, yeah, that happens.
None of our online stuff works. It's just sold as a joke.
That's basically what he was saying. He was like, yeah, they have no quality assurance at all at the website. It's trash. I'm not even surprised this doesn't work. I'm awesome. Like, all right, cool. So you're just gonna like refund it? And he was like, yeah, I can check to see if somebody has a 1X, but like nobody has these anymore. We just carry Series S and Series X. And I was like, yeah, makes sense. And then like as he's returning, he's like, I have one. It's in the back room. Do you want a 1X instead? I'm like, yeah, if you want to just swap it out, that's fine.
Yeah.
So he goes in his back room and he brings it out and he powers it up and it's fine. It works. And then he's like, and the one that they had sent me in the mail looked like somebody had taken sandpaper to the top of the system and just ground it down.
That's what they do there. They sandpaper them down.
And so the one he pulls out of his back room has a little bit of that scuffing, but it's like not bad. He was like, yeah, this kind of looks like trash though. And I'm like, it looks way better than the one he got from the website. He says, hold on a second.
And for $40, whatever.
And so he goes into the back and he brings out a GameStop branded Xbox vinyl sticker that is perfectly shaped for the top of the system. And it has, it's pure black, no logos, anything. And it just goes over the top of the system and makes it look like it's brand new from a distance. I'm like, I was like, do you guys just have these? And he says, yeah, we've got a whole set of them. Like, all right, fine, whatever. So, yeah. So he gives me that, and he gives me this ridiculous Design Lab controller that was traded in with it, I guess. Which it's ketchup and mustard themed. I sent you a picture of it earlier.
Yes.
And so I bring it home, and everything works, and I install a 1 terabyte solid state drive in there, and it works fine. Everything's great. The process of installing a solid state in an Xbox One is not fun, but it's not terrible.
The worst. Yeah.
So I got it done. It's running a solid state now. It works great. I've got it set up in my bedroom. And then I was like, what am I going to play on it that is Kinect? So I looked through the list of actual Xbox One Kinect
I love that
games.
You've gone through all of this before you went, what do I actually want to fucking do with this thing?
They're all trash. It's like all Just Dance. And so I download the Disneyland Adventures game from Game Pass because it supports Kinect just to try it out. And it's also trash. It's a trash game. So anyway, I mostly use it for Balatro in the bedroom now.
All right.
But I was looking through the Xbox store because I was like, well, what do I not already have that is Xbox One compatible that I would play on here? And I found 2 things. One, Game Dev Story has an Xbox port. And I love Game Dev Story. So I was playing some Game Dev Story on there. And also, somebody inexplicably released a collection of Shockman games.
What the fuck is Shockman?
So back in the day, everybody said this is TurboGrafx' answer to Mega Man. That's not true, right. And whoever told you that is lying to you.
Shockman.
But the games are fun. They're just little action platformery games. We only got one of them in the U.S. We got the second game. This collection that I got on my Xbox is the first 2 games, both translated into English, which is neat. And they call it Collection Volume 1, which implies they may release the other
more
2
volumes. Sure.
So I am excited to finally see Shockman re-released in any form whatsoever. Yeah. And I've been playing that on my Xbox, and it is good. I enjoyed it on TurboGrafx back in the day. I still don't think it's as good as Mega Man, but it's fun.
It looks okay.
It's sword-based instead of shooty-based, so that already feels the opposite of Mega Man.
Let's see, the direct translation of it is Modified Townsman Shibibi Man 2 a new enemy.
Yeah, the Xbox version calls it Cyber Citizen Shockman.
I think they should have kept Shabibin Man because I like that better than all of the alternatives.
But yeah, it's fun. It's a fun series of games. If you haven't played them before, you should check them out. You might want to emulate them first before you buy the $10 collection, like I did. Mm-hmm. But it's still fun. I like it, and I recommend them.
Let's do some news.
Okay.
First up, Roblox studio head says that allowing kids to earn money through the games through the platform isn't child labor. It's a gift.
Oh, a gift.
It's a gift.
It's a gift. It's a gift.
Later,
to children.
PR walked that back for very obvious legal reasons, mostly including the acknowledgement of the child labor that Roblox is profiting off of at all whatsoever in any way, shape, or form, which is massive
labor
and widespread. And there are more Roblox, in air quotes, games than there are games on Steam, or at least that was true a few years ago when that statistic came out. Roblox is bizarre. A gigantic content farm that exploits children.
Yeah, that's basically it. I'm sorry, it gifts children the joy of exploitation.
It gifts children the joy of exploitation. The joy of labor. Sounds like some weird ass like late stage capitalism propaganda. The joy of labor.
Ask your wife about the joy of labor. She's given birth. I'm sure.
Are you joyful yet? That also has its own currency. Robux.
Yeah, that's true. There's Robux. That was also a thing I could buy with my All-Stars points.
The Apple App Store is now allowing emulators. Finally, iPhone users can do what we've all been doing since the literal 90s.
Yeah.
Thanks, Apple, for allowing your platform to have basic functionality.
It's catching up to the 2010 Android market.
Yeah, it's almost as good as my HTC Hero, or it's functional anyway. It's probably better because that phone sucked, but it was functional. But it sucks. A new blockchain-based NFT handheld announced.
I think it was called BitBoy.
We don't. So, I mean, here's the thing. It's a scam, right? I mean, this is a scam.
It looks like a scam, yes.
But we don't quite know the details of how it is a scam. So I don't really understand how this works. It's going to cost $500.
Oof.
Which is a lot.
Yeah.
In my understanding, according to the Kotaku article, is that it's a crypto wallet. But there are also, for people that don't know, to continue the dystopia that we touched on last episode with your backbone phone controller hardware having subscription-based features.
Yeah.
There are what they call play-to-earn games that are games that reward you with items of the crypto variety that are on the blockchain, and the whole point is that you play them and earn money. And I don't know at what point people don't just go, wait a minute, you've just described a job, except the money that you're giving us is imaginary.
Yeah, it's virtual.
Can I just go out and be like, yeah, I'm going to hire an assistant and I only paid Jeffrey $? Like, can I do that?
Yeah, apparently.
Is that a thing? Like, you can just do that now. That's what we're doing.
Just make sure that the assistant works through Roblox and you're all good.
Oh, no, your money isn't physical. It exists in a digital format that you must carry around. Yeah. Like, I don't. What?
And also, I can retract it from you at any time.
Please, nobody buy this. This is a scam. NFTs are a scam.
Yeah.
The blockchain is basically a scam. It's a scam.
Which is a shame because it had, some promise.
Some cool ideas.
It's only used for scams.
At a technological level, the blockchain has some cool ideas in it.
Yes.
But, so does like mustard gas at a technological level. Yeah, there are
What are the cool ideas that mustard gas has, Justin?
There are some interesting chemical reactions going on, but let's call it what it is.
That's some real neat mustard gas you have there.
I keep thinking there's a scene in the movie Joe Dirt where there's like this, he's a janitor and there's like this like dorky science kid and he's like demonstrating mixing chemicals for his class and he goes, oh no, I've accidentally created deadly mustard gas, and they all start falling on the ground. That's all I can think about is that kid. We're doing the news. Pretendo, a fan-made replacement for Nintendo Network, can now run on Wii U consoles without installing custom firmware, although you should install custom firmware because it's easy and there's a lot of functionality added.
Right.
So that's all cool stuff. It
lets you play GameCube games if you hack your Wii U. It's great.
I don't know why Nintendo is
the way they are.
It's frustrating.
Yeah.
Slay the Spire 2 and a Vampire Survivors / Contra crossover was announced at the AAA Indie event, which I forgot to watch. I think I might have been out of town for it anyway. Yeah, I meant to support it. I meant to mention it. I meant to do a watch party like we do, and I just totally forgot it was happening.
I didn't even know it was happening.
I had seen it in the news, and I forgot because I like the idea of these, indies putting on their own game shows without these big corpos. Slay the Spire 2 is exciting. Slay the Spire is a masterpiece of game design. It's a fantastic game, and Megacrit has been really open about the fact that, like, hey, we're not going to do another one until we have a good idea for another one. So clearly they either ran out of money or got a good idea. Yeah, one of those two things. Yeah. Maybe both. Happened.
Right.
But also Vampire Survivors crossing over with the obvious Konami property.
Yeah.
What else would it cross over with from Konami but Contra for some reason?
I also would have accepted Kid Dracula or Great.
That's at least on brand for Vampire Survivors.
Yeah.
What a weird, maybe, cool, but weird.
Maybe next they'll do a Vampire Survivors Yu-Gi-Oh crossover.
Yeah. I would be really into that. I'd be like, hell yeah.
I was just looking it up. The Contra crossover is going to be $2.50. And it's got, was that 8 or 10 new characters? 11 new characters, 22 new weapons.
This is exciting.
Yeah, that's a good set there.
I'm ready for that spread shot. That's what I want. I want that thing.
Oh, yeah.
You hadn't thought about it, had you?
I had not. I had not even put any thought into it yet. Oh, yeah. That looks like the spread shot right there. Oh, yeah.
And Euphoria 2, Super R-Type, and Wrecking Crew 98 have been added to Nintendo Switch Online. If people are still playing that, are people still playing Nintendo Switch Online?
I don't know, but all three of those are good games. I like all three of those games.
For sure.
Wrecking Crew 98 is a favorite of mine. It was originally Japan exclusive. I thought it was Satellaview exclusive, but maybe not. And it's a falling block puzzle game themed after the Black Box NES game Wrecking Crew.
Oh, all right,
and it's super fun.
Yeah, it looks like it's got Mario in his little hat.
Yeah,
little construction hat.
Wario's in there too. He is the other player. And that's a fun one. If you like falling block puzzle games and you haven't played Wrecking Crew 98 yet, you definitely should.
And the original Wrecking Crew, wasn't it canonically not Mario?
Correct, yeah.
It was Spike. Is that the guy?
Yeah. Yep.
That was Spike was from? Did you get that right?
That is correct.
Which brings us to our topic at hand, which is Smash TV. Which is
like you do when you go punch your TV.
Which is like Vampire Survivors, but with more dying and less power-ups. It's funny. I've played a lot of Smash TV growing up. And going back to it, having not played it since before Vampire Survivors was a thing, playing it now, I was like, yeah, this feels like Vampire Survivors. Me and a twin stick set, granted, Vampire Survivors isn't really twin stick.
Yeah, it's an auto fire.
But there are some aimed weapons in like the knives and stuff, but you do aim them single stick. They go the direction that you're walking.
Oh, man, if they ever make a Vampire Survivors 2, I hope it's twin stick.
Oh, yeah. I could already see the marketing now. It's like, utilizes a second stick. But I could feel that. I was like, this feels Vampire Survivors. Yeah. This is weird and anachronistic feeling.
Right.
This was developed and published by Williams Electronics, released in arcades in April of 1990, later ported to tons of shit. It was all over the place. Oh, yeah. First encounters, I don't remember specifically. I think... Because I played Total Carnage growing up. I don't know where we played it at. I don't know if it was a little not a Little Caesars, a CC's Pizza or something somewhere near my house.
How did you downgrade from Little Caesars that quickly? Like barely out of a sentence, and you've dropped.
But I because we didn't have a Little Caesars. I was just thinking about Little Caesars. I don't. It might have been at Nickelmania that I played it. We had a Nickel arcade that was not far from my grandma's house. We'd go to, but I played a lot of Total Carnage. And I remember, I believe it was the NES version of Smash TV was the first one I played. Like as an adult, when I was collecting NES games, I picked it up and I was like, "This looks total carnage-y." And I played it, and I was like, "But it sucks really bad."
Hey.
And so I Googled it, and then learned that you have to use 2 controllers.
You don't have
to. You do if you want it to not be awful.
Yeah, if you're playing it on NES, I guess you kind of do, yeah.
And then I was
really,
like,
if you're playing it on NES, you're having a bad day anyway.
Yeah. So then I eventually ended up delving into it, and it's pretty fun. It's a fun game. It's one of those games that I go back to occasionally, more for the vibes than necessarily the game. But we'll talk more.
Hopefully
about
not the NES version.
No.
No.
But we'll talk more about that at a later date. What about you, Saturn? First encounters Smash TV.
So I had rented it on Super NES before I had ever seen the arcade machine anywhere, and I was just super fascinated by this idea of moving with the D-pad and then using the 4 diamond-shaped buttons to fire in each of the 4 directions. I thought that was just super fascinating.
Yeah.
And then I eventually saw it in an arcade, and I was like, wait, it's just got 2 sticks. This is even more crazy.
Yeah.
And then once controllers did have 2 analog sticks on them, that was one of the first things that I played when I got my PS1 DualShock plugged into my computer through an adapter. Was I pulled up Smash TV on an arcade emulator just so that I could map it to 2 analogs, and I was like, it's just like the arcade.
It's the future,
right? And then I got the Midway Collection on the original Xbox, which also controls that way. It is a game that I like to go back to arcade wise. I think the theming of it, like you said, is also one of the main reasons I go back to it. Just
for sure,
it's ridiculous.
For sure. I think if it took itself seriously, it would be in the forgotten pile.
Exactly, yeah.
100%.
Right.
Tell us about the development.
Carnage.
Like, hey, wait a minute! Wait a minute! Slow down! So tell us about development on Smash TV.
So before we get to Smash TV, I need to mention earlier, back in '82, because Williams had released another game. Their designer, Eugene Jarvis, had developed Robotron 2084. Which, if you're not familiar with Robotron 2084, it's Smash TV, but 8-bit. So it's an old arcade game with dual joystick controls. And Eugene Jarvis was certain this was going to become the standard for video arcade machines. That every machine was going to have dual joystick controls.
What was his plan for arcade games that needed button presses too?
2 joysticks.
All right. Yep. I'm with you.
2 joysticks.
I'm with you, Jarvie. Let's do it.
And the game sold pretty well, but because no other games adopted that control method, it ended up costing quite a bit for Williams to produce it. So they considered it a failure for the most part, despite selling all right. And a little while after that, a programmer, Mark Turmel, had been working on an interactive movie project for Hasbro, and the executives at Hasbro canceled the project, and he was upset, so he left Hasbro and joined Williams, and he was a big fan of Robotron, and he wanted to go back to that dual joystick idea, and so he was working at Williams. There's already the synergy there with Eugene Jarvis. So his idea of this dual joystick game was something that is dystopian and violent, like RoboCop or The Running Man. And you can see it.
Yeah, I had it later in the notes under presentation, but it feels very RoboCop. First of all, the announcer dude is a straight homage to the "I'd buy that for $1" guy.
Exactly. They even say that line in the game.
It's not exact, or at least not the version I was playing. They change it slightly, but it's so close that you're like, that's RoboCop. He's even got the 2 women hanging on him.
Right.
You know,
but it's also very directly a parody of The Running Man. Just because it is the
actual circumstances
game show
of the game.
Yeah. And
for sure.
and the host is similar to Richard Dawson's character in The Running Man too.
True. It's true.
And so to help flesh out the game, to give it a little more personality, he hired an artist, John Tobias, who would design all the characters and enemies. Tobias famously went on to design the characters and lore of Mortal Kombat. He is the Cybot in Noob Saibot.
Oh.
And then since Jarvis was brought on board since he had originally designed the dual analog idea, and the hardware was similar to his previous game, Narc, which was also known for its graphic over-the-top violence.
Also very RoboCop.
You're probably too young to remember, but Narc was super controversial for a hot minute there.
I knew of Narc, mostly by way of home ports. And by the time I played it, it was like, old. It was so goofy.
Yeah.
Because like you shoot people and like their bodies explode into 100 bloody bits.
Right.
It's like so over the top. Like I find there's a lot of games I find more disturbing than Narc. Narc is so ridiculous.
Yeah, but at the time it was very controversial.
Yeah, but I remember there was still kind of like, when it came up, it was like, oh, that game, people didn't like that when it came out. They were upset.
And Williams was kind of like back to back to back on trying to one up themselves and Gore, because they had Narc and then they had Smash TV and then they had Mortal Kombat.
Yeah,
pretty much back to back to back. So clearly that was their thing, but it was because Narc did well despite the controversy that they immediately approved the violence in Smash TV. They just didn't even care. They were like, whatever, be as violent as you want.
Yeah.
And for some reason, Smash TV didn't have nearly as much controversy as either Narc or Mortal Kombat.
Mm-hmm.
And Williams didn't pay for any playtesters on the game. So they just kind of tested it themselves, and they kept making it as hard as they could because they wanted people to put in as many quarters as possible, obviously.
Yeah.
But they also really wanted the hitboxes to be predictable and forgiving, despite how hard it is. So they wanted you to know exactly when you were going to get hit. That memo did not carry over to Acclaim, who made all the home ports, because they didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
And those games are completely unfair. But the arcade version is pretty accurate as far as its hitboxes go.
For presentation, we already talked about it. It's very, RoboCop. It's very Running Man. It is interesting playing this now because I really feel like Grand Theft Auto feels like it cribbed some from Smash TV.
I could see that, yeah.
Not just the top-down, but the kind of cartoonishly over-the-top violence. And because for people that haven't played a Grand Theft Auto before 3, they were silly. They were silly games.
Right.
And it was like, a little bit of the old hyper-violence, but then also it was goofy.
Right.
And so I felt, I don't know if it's ever been cited as an inspiration, but when I was playing it, I was feeling that GTA 2 vibe.
I see that.
I was definitely feeling that. It's a very silly game. It's got the big announcer guy, and he comes in his like sparkly red suit or whatever.
I think it's I think the color changes based on the platform.
Is that what it is?
Different systems had different palettes for his suit.
So and you're off to the races. It's American Gladiators, but you can really die for realsies.
It's the Running Man, essentially.
It's a decent
the movie,
looking
The
game.
Running Man. I thought it looked okay for its time. I remember at the time being a little disappointed by how teeny tiny all the people were until you start seeing all the shit happening at once.
Yeah, how many come out on the screen at once.
Exactly.
I do like this game uses a lot of perspective stuff. So as you're kind of moving between these, what are effectively sets, it looks like you're in like a little movie set, and like you move over like the little lighting rigs and stuff that are suspended above the arena. So I thought that was a nice touch. For whatever reason, it always really reminded me of, there's this, I want to say it was a Dan Aykroyd movie, and it was like these two parents that are stuck inside a TV.
But like Stay Tuned with John Ritter.
John Ritter, that's who it is. I don't know why that was Dan Aykroyd. Yes, it has always kind of reminded me of that movie.
I could see that.
Just because it's it's very movie set looking as you're like moving between these stages.
Yeah.
It's there's a lot of inspiration that I feel was taken from Smash TV and went into Smash TV that it kind of wears on its sleeve.
Oh yeah. None of the people involved in it have denied any of the obvious inspirations. They're very clear about where they grabbed inspiration.
Yeah. Let's talk gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
This is an over-the-head twin-stick shooter. Yep. I was trying to, this was still, as we talked about, Robotron 2084 was kind of
several years before this, but
it was several years before this, but it didn't catch on. Twin-stick shooters were not a thing yet. I mean, like they're their own genre now, right? It is top down. You basically enter a room, you fight waves of enemies. Sometimes money or power ups land on the ground, and you want to pick as much of those up while killing all the people before you move into the next single screen zone.
Yes.
After you defeat them all,
the prizes are based on which level you're in.
Yeah, after you defeat them all, you can move on. It does briefly show you a map, so you can try to navigate your way through some extra rooms to get to like the big extra cash money prize rooms if you want.
Yeah.
A lot of the rooms, I like this a lot. A lot of them are themed in some way.
Yeah.
Like there was one room I walked in, and they'll have a thing pop up that says something that gives you a hint to the theming of the room. I walked in a room and it just goes, orbs!
Yeah, I love orbs. That's my favorite.
Orbs! That was
I was
going to
mention that if you didn't. Because most of them have like a several word sentence description of it. And then you get to that one room, it's just orbs.
Orbs.
Like the only enemy you see in there.
That was the room they came up with when they were like, oh man, we got to go to lunch. And they're like, well, we need one more room. And the guy's like, I don't know, fucking orbs.
I actually, had, one of the interviews that I was reading actually mentioned that room specifically. Like
really?
It had replaced another room that was either too easy or too hard. I don't remember what it was. They had to replace a room for some reason. And they're like, what do we do with it? And they're like, orbs. And that's just what they went with.
Yeah, it's so all the rooms, not all the rooms, some of the rooms are themed.
Yeah.
Which adds to the variety because it would get a little tedious if it was just the same kind of selection of enemy waves getting slightly more dense, and then here you go, move on.
I think they do a pretty good job of introducing the different enemy types to you early on.
Oh yeah.
Because you start with just the regular guys with bats, and then it gradually introduces the slightly more difficult enemies that take more hits or that explode or whatever.
Yeah.
So
It is a game that it's tough. It's pretty unforgiving. It does feel very responsive, though. I think it's just it might just be the fire rate of the weapons. But outside of like the basic gun, they're really coming out of there, man. Yeah. Like there's a lot going on the screen at once with virtually no slowdown. Right. And I think that's what it is given the era that this game came out, I was expecting slowdown.
Right.
You know, like it came out in 19...
Play the NES version, you'll find it.
Yeah, there you go. But seeing this much
the Game Gear version.
Oh my God, why would they port this to Game Gear? How do you even play it on a Game Gear?
Yeah.
It sounds bad. It does use 2 joysticks per player. Left stick is your movement, right stick is your weapon direction. It's an auto fire game, so it just because there's no triggers or anything.
Now, if you let go of the right stick, it stops firing. So it only fires in whichever direction you press.
A little annoying. I'm also a little annoyed that, like, I get why it is, but the directions that you fire, it's an 8-way shot.
Right.
And the fact that it's not full 360 makes it hard to line up shots a lot of the time.
Well, they didn't have analog joysticks.
Right. I mean, I get why, obviously. But it could have been maybe like a joystick and a trackball. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe or a dial. A dial would be good.
Then how would you stop firing?
You wouldn't. Maybe you could just always auto fire.
Yeah.
Which wouldn't really work because you do have to kind of save up your weapons. The weapons are usage-based, not time-based. Although they seem to be based on how many actual things come out of the barrel of the gun.
Yeah.
Because the weapons that shoot a lot of items at once, like there's a grenade launcher, but it's more like a grenade spray paint can.
Yeah.
Like 90,000 grenades come out at once, and that thing goes immediately. You instantly run out of ammo for that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. At the end of the levels, you do get all of your stuff tallied up at the end.
Yep.
Which I love because they give it to you in weird increments.
Yeah.
They're like 70,000 toasters, 13,000 new cars.
Well, that's what you were picking up the whole time.
But I just love the idea that you went home with like 4,000 toasters and 27 cars. And they show this huge sprite of your guy just stoked to get 9,000 toasters.
Unless you're playing 2-player.
What does it do then? I always play single player.
Because you'll have both players listed there, and whichever one has the most of whatever that prize is lifts his hand and does the whole stoked pose just like in single player. But player 2 looks all sad because he didn't get as many as the other guy.
There are bosses in the 3 arenas in the game. First up is Mutoid Man.
Yep.
Who is part man, part tank. And Mutoid Man is awesome.
And let's be clear here. He's not part man the way that your people are man, because he's clearly like 1,000 times the size of you.
Yeah, he's gigantic. He's part visually man and the rest tank.
Right.
It does this weird thing, and I don't quite know how to describe it, but as you like blow bits off of him, the sprite like shoots off of him like 1,000 times.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that effect is called. So like when you blow his arm off, it'll show his arm like shooting off of him, like it's spraying off of him.
It reminds me of Mortal Kombat 3 whenever you do a fatality and like 1,000 tibias would fly out of the character.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. And for some reason I find it extremely satisfying. Mutoid Man is a kick-ass tank man. He's really cool. The boss battles are lengthy and tough. I mean, this is very much a quarter eater game.
Yes.
Like they don't expect you to, I mean, it only has 3 arenas anyway. Like they know you ain't running through these levels.
Yeah.
Shit gets unfair fast. The waves of enemies often move in ways that you can't shoot, and they get caught between your 8-way shots. But the bosses in particular are really tough.
Oh yeah.
Really
and
tough.
Often regular enemies show up in the middle of the boss fight.
Oh
too.
yeah. And then also in we haven't talked about them yet, but you get different weapon power-ups.
Mm-hmm.
They just aren't long enough, and they disappear so fast.
What's the one weapon that just like shoots little orbs out?
I don't know. I don't know what it's called, but the one where they kind of arc up in the sky.
Yeah,
I hate that piece of shit. It's the Super Ball launcher. I don't know what the fuck they call it in the game, but
for some reason that one just tears up Scarface. Like that.
Oh yeah, it does. It's really good on
really
Mutoid Man too. Yeah, any of the bosses.
Yeah.
To finish the bosses, you have Mutoid Man, then you have Scarface, which is a disc mutant.
Yeah.
Disc mutant.
Weird. Yeah.
And then Die Cobros, which is 2 robot cobras.
Yes.
Because why not? The guns you can get, there's a spread shot, which is the best weapon objectively, because then people don't get caught between your 8-way shot.
Right.
There's a rocket launcher, which is pretty good. Grenade launcher, which again, the amount of weapons you have is rated in shots, and the grenade launcher just rapid fires all the grenades at once, spits them out in a blob, so it kind of sucks. I'm trying to think what other web. There's a super ball launcher thing. What else is there?
I forgot to put that in the notes, didn't I?
Yeah. But there's a few of them. None of them, like the only one that ever feels really useful. There's speed pickups that you can get that make you go faster. There's one that just you pick it up and it nukes the whole screen. All the enemies die.
Yes.
The spread shot.
I think my favorite one is just the invincibility.
Invincibility is nice. The spread shot's easily the best weapon, bar none. Enemies also eventually start ramping up and having projectiles that are often little laser beams. And the laser beams are very hard to see. They're like 2 pixels wide, and they'll barely clip the edge of your hitbox as you're kind of running around. Really, the thing that keeps me going is that after you die in the game, you get this little like force field around you.
Yeah, you get the invincibility,
So when you respawn, you have that. But you're not just invincible. Mm-hmm. You can run that into enemies, and it causes them to explode into gore piles.
And you can pick up the power-up that does that, too.
Yeah, there is some power-up that does it, but whenever you spawn, you get it, and the almost all the games in this, the deaths in this game feel unfair. Like, every time you die, you're like, what was I supposed to fucking do? Or he ran between my bullets, or whatever.
Right.
But the knowing mentally that when I come back, I basically become a bulldozer and can bulldoze through like 50 guys at once.
Yeah.
It's that moment that keeps me playing.
Right. Yeah. That is just some pure satisfaction for a few moments.
So, because like games like this, a lot of times like I'll play and it's like you die and you're like, all right, I'm going to turn this ROM off now. I played until I died and whatever. And it was bullshit because it's an arcade game. Knowing that I have that bulldozer coming every time, I'm like, yeah, but maybe I'll run through 50 guys real quick. And then when I do that, a spread shot drops. I'm like, well, maybe I'll keep playing until I run out of this.
Yeah.
And so that's that it's such a little touch, but that is what keeps me in the gameplay loop actively.
Did we mention the bonus 4th boss?
No, we didn't. Go ahead.
Okay. So yeah, after you fight the Cobras, you can, if you've collected enough keys, you get to fight the MC. Only he is a tank like Mutoid Man.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. That's the game.
So, tell me about the Pleasure Dome.
So they hint at the Pleasure Dome throughout the game, right?
Yeah, it's like the big reward at the end.
Yeah, and they're like, you need more keys to enter the Pleasure Dome. But the thing is, it wasn't in the game. It was a joke.
Yeah.
There was no Pleasure Dome. There was no way to get to the Pleasure Dome. And the room before the fight against the evil version of the host, the tank host, it would tell you, oh, you don't have enough keys. You can't go to the Pleasure Dome. And then you just fight the host.
Yeah.
However, people were upset that they couldn't find how to get to the Pleasure Dome.
Look, you don't make a place called the Pleasure Dome and then not let anybody go there.
So by the time they got to version 8.0 of the arcade game, they decided to go ahead and add the Pleasure Dome in there. So only in later arcade versions and all the home ports can you actually access the Pleasure Dome. And it's just a bunch of bonus prizes and cash.
Is it just a bunch of toasters again?
Basically toasters. It's whatever the level 3 prize is. I don't remember what
Maybe toasters are currency in the world of Smash TV. Maybe that's
I think toasters are level 1, if I remember right.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk home ports and how they all failed.
Yeah.
I'll let you step us through these. So you played more of the home ports than me.
Oh, yeah. So you got the NES version, which, as you mentioned, you can use 2 controllers so that you can have the D-pad on the left one being your movement, the D-pad on the right one being your firing. With a go ahead.
Is this the only NES game where you can use multiple controllers to control a single character?
I'm not sure. I know that was a thing on a handful of Atari games, but I can't think of another NES game.
Yeah.
However, the NES version supports multi-tap, so both players can use 2 controllers.
Uh-huh.
The Genesis and the Master System versions also support this same gameplay style, since they also only have less than the requisite buttons on the right-hand side.
Right.
But they are limited to 1 player. They do not support multi-tap. There was the Super NES, Genesis, and Game Gear port, which were all called Super Smash TV, though they are still just Smash TV. I don't know why they called them Super.
And it also annoyed me because I spent 20 minutes trying to find the ROM for it, and I was like, oh, yeah, it's called Super Smash TV.
Yes. And the Game Gear version is the same as the Master System version that is not called Super Smash TV, but it is called Super Smash TV. I don't know why. The C64 version also supports dual joysticks. So if you plug in 2 gamepads, controller 2 is your movement and controller 1 is your fire. Because that's just how C64 works.
Right.
The Master System and Game Gear ports have far fewer enemies on the screen just because the system couldn't really handle it. And it also runs quite a bit slower. But the one that I was most impressed with is the ZX Spectrum version, which looks really impressive to me. Like, I'm sure it's still not a great port just because it's a very weak machine, but graphically that's one of the best looking ZX Spectrum games I've seen, which granted I'm not an expert on the system, so I'm sure some people from the UK are going to tell me I'm insane, but just looking at still shots and videos of it, it looks really impressive. But it is just single direction fire like the other ones.
Single direction fire?
Well, whichever direction you're facing.
Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. I thought you were implying you could only shoot one direction. I was like, how do you play it then?
No, yeah. Now you on some of the versions that have less than the optimal number of buttons, it would just auto fire if you were using 1 controller, and you could hold one of the buttons to freeze your fire in that direction and then keep moving in other directions.
Yeah.
But I'd still just rather have the 2 sticks.
Yeah. How would you? So 2 sticks on C64, unless they had the little suction cup feet. That seems difficult.
It would be difficult, yes.
That would be, you'd have to have someone to hold, a second person to hold your joystick bases.
Well, you just use your feet for one of them.
Okay, there you go.
That's what you do.
Let's talk reception. People liked this.
Yeah, it was generally pretty well
received. People liked this game. Some of the home ports obviously sucked.
Yeah.
But then, like you mentioned, it did not get as much criticism as Narc and Mortal Kombat that came out around it.
Yeah.
I think the trick here is to just be silly. Yeah. Maybe if Mortal Kombat had a silly announcer.
Right. Yeah.
Which I guess, I mean, it does. But, one in like a sparkly suit.
Yeah.
Giving us toasters.
Right.
Maybe that would be the difference. Yeah. Tell me about the legacy.
It's based on how many cars you receive in the game.
Yeah.
The more cars, the less controversial.
Because there were sequels.
There were, well, not a sequel. So Turmel he went on to make Total Carnage, and he insists that it is not a sequel.
It has Mutoid Man in it.
It's not a sequel.
He's in it. He's like the first boss.
He says outright it's not a sequel.
He can fucking say it all he wants.
Yeah, I always called it the sequel too. I was shocked to see that he claims that this is a totally original game and not a sequel to Smash
Total
TV.
Carnage is a reference to Smash TV.
Right.
They say Total Carnage in the game.
He says it all the time. So, yeah,
it had to be because he did. I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know what his thing is, but he insists that it is not a sequel. But it has been in many arcade collections over the years. Midway put it in a bunch of stuff. Warner's put it in that most recent Midway collection. Mm-hmm. And since consoles started having twin stick controllers, it seems to always support that on systems with that as an input method, which is good because that's what it should do. So, but it is accessible. I think the most recent collection was the one that Warner put out on Xbox 360 and PS3, which is still playable on a Series X. But if you don't have, if you're not in the Xbox environment, you're stuck with emulation, unfortunately.
Yeah, thankfully it emulates fine. Final Burn Neo added support for the game not long ago, and it supports fine twin sticks right out of the box.
Excellent.
Just kind of runs. I played mine on Steam Deck, and it worked good, and it was good. Final thoughts. I think Smash TV is a mean game.
Mm-hmm.
It's a mean game that hates you.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, the meanness really fits the dumb theme.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it fits the dystopian theme, yeah.
Like, because here's the thing. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's not a thing in game shows anymore, but like, people like to watch people fail in game shows. Like, you're there to watch them like flop and fall down or get slimed or whatever thing on whatever show it is. You know,
what was that show? Wipeout? It was just watching people fall off of
get
giant
knocked off the
fun
shit.
noodles. Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's cool watching Ninja Warriors, seeing people go through the whole obstacle course. It's also cool to see them get like ricocheted off of a board and fly across the arena and land in a pit of mud. Like,
seriously.
You know, yeah, people go to NASCAR because they like racing, but they want to see the crashes.
Yeah. I mean, if you remember the movie The Running Man, like the whole point is the audience wants to see the blood. They want to see somebody die in there, and they're upset when Arnold Schwarzenegger keeps not dying.
So the point is, we're all disgusting animals.
Yes.
And for whatever reason, like, the meanness fits with the theme.
Yeah.
So it feels less upsetting that the game is mean as shit and gives you a bunch of bullshit deaths. I mean, it's at least at home where I wasn't paying 25 cents a go anyway.
Right, yeah.
If I was in an arcade, I'd be like, fuck this bullshit game.
Yeah, it was a quarter per minute.
Yeah, basically. You know, it's I feel like the game's pretty chill.
Yeah.
Up to Mutoid Man.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the difficulty skyrockets. He's crazy hard.
Yes.
And then after that, it's just nuts.
I do like whenever you get rid of the first form of every boss, the voiceover that goes, "No way."
Yeah.
I love that part. I don't know why. Anyway.
So it's a mean game, but I think it all fits. It all works with what it's trying to do. And I think it's fun. It's fun. It's worth returning to. It's enjoyable.
Oh, yeah. I remember just thinking of it as a spectacle when I first saw it. Like the sprites are all teeny tiny, which was a problem that I had at the time. But then everything is happening all at once, and there's the loud music, and there's the announcer, and there's voiceovers, and bosses explode in giant spectacular fashion, and I just remember being just incredibly impressed by just the spectacle of it all.
It did come out in the big sprites era, so I could see you being like, well, these are small sprites.
Exactly.
But I imagine at the end of the first arena, when you saw your big sprite, you're like, okay, well, there's a big sprite.
Well, also the host himself, when he pops up on screen, he's a big sprite,
pretty big.
too.
Yeah, he's big.
But yeah, it was graphically, it did impress me, but the theme is what kept me going. Because I just really love that whole dystopian evil game show theme, and it's not done very often in media, but I love it when it does happen for some reason.
For sure. I also love the dystopian game show that is our Patreon.
Is it? Is that what it is?
It's got to be that. I don't know what else it could be. It's definitely weird.
Nobody wins though.
No. Well, I win.
Oh yeah.
I get a cash prize every month from our wonderful patrons.
Justin got 17 convertibles last month.
I spent it all on toasters. We win. We,
Yay.
the staff of the show. I don't want to make it sound like I keep all the money. That's not what's happening here. It is dispersed.
He shares the toasters after he buys them.
Yeah, I buy all the toasters and I give Saturn one, and he's like, "Please stop. I'm so hungry.
I have so many toasters."
We want to thank the following people for contributing our toaster money, starting with Smitty
and Gorthum,
Matthew Webb.
Oh, you would leave this on my. Hello, my name is random characters that I can't pronounce.
Yeah, I think it got borked. The internet ate it. Yeah. Alexander VG,
Rainbow Relic 220,
Kim Pallett,
Jonathan Meisner,
Jose Rodriguez,
and Free Yuji Naka.
He doesn't cost anything.
Yeah, it's free.
We can all have a free Yuji Naka. Isn't he free to
every Sonic 2?
Is he out now?
Yeah, I think he's out, and immediately started talking trash about Square Enix.
Oh, yeah, well, I imagine he did. He went to fucking jail for committing fraud while he worked there.
Yeah.
I imagine he's probably pretty pissed at Square Enix. I'd be pretty pissed at anyone that was to play a hand in sending me to prison. Justified or not, I'd be like, fuck you, man.
Yeah.
So there you go. Free Yuji Naka. You
With
can
purchase of every large Slurpee.
You're going to give me a free Japanese game developer with a Slurpee? Yeah, he's not doing much these days.
He needs work.
He's just been in 7-Eleven and nobody buys Slurpees anymore, so we're trying to... I had my first... I know we're on a tangent at the end of the show, but I had my...
Again?
I hadn't had a Slurpee in like a decade.
Yeah.
And I had one like a year ago.
Yeah.
And
it's just all syrup.
It was blue flavored.
What does blue taste like?
It tastes like what you imagine blue would taste like. It tastes like cold blue.
Yeah.
And it was real good, man. I was like, I forgot how good Slurpees are. I was always an icy kid because we went to Kmart. Kmart had popcorn and ices. So we would get popcorn and ices.
I was a slush puppy kid because there was a mini golf course on my way home from school when I was walking home, and he had slush puppies, and I couldn't stay there for a whole game of mini golf, but I get a slush puppy on my way home for a quarter.
Yeah, there you go. I don't think I've ever had a slush puppy.
Oh, they're great.
I always did ices. They had the polar bear on the surfboard, and in the picture, he was drinking an icy, and he had sunglasses, and I thought he was cool, so I wanted to be cool like him.
Yeah, slush puppy has a little droopy looking dog as its mascot.
That sounds depressing.
He's smiling though.
Okay. Thank you for listening to Talking Wizards. No, Talking Wizards. Thank you for listening to... I'm sorry, we were talking about Slurpees, and I was just went to Talking Wizards. Thank you for listening to Retro Warriors, the show where I know the name of the show that we're doing.
No, he doesn't.
I know where I am. I know what month it is.
Uh-huh.
I'm not just thawed out of idiot cryo to come host the show. I swear. I'm a functioning adult. I pay taxes.
Your wife does.
Anyway, thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week. And as always, let us cling together.